You're listening to Community Radio, CKMS, Radio Waterloo, 102.7, 946 on the Rogers Digital Network. You can find us.
Happy Monday, Waterloo Region. This is CKMS Community Connections. I'm Bob Jonkman. Welcome to November. I'm going to start off with a bit of Paragon Cause, their new album, and then we'll see what is in the studio for the rest of the hour. Paragon Cause.
Listening to someone else. It's what you get for listening to someone else. Running just to catch on up. Time for trouble now. Never getting through to you now. Time for hesitation. It's never gonna be enough. Time for hesitation. It's never gonna be enough. It's what you get for listening to someone else. It's what you get for listening to someone else. Time for hesitation. It's never gonna be enough. The time for hesitation. It's never gonna be enough. Running just to catch on up. This time in the trouble on. And I'll never give enough. This is not a place for you. It's running high. This is not a place for you. It's running high. It's what you get for listening to someone else. It's what you get for listening. It's what you get for listening to someone else. Keep it from showing, seeping through. Never far. from showing through. Can't keep it from showing. Everyone sees it when you. To my surprise, through different tries, the lines between us changing form. And I believe you, and I believe you, and I believe you now. Thinking that you're still you. Thinking that you're still you. No one sees except for you. Now different lives, compromise, and lies between us. It's taking form. It's taking form. Will it be up or down? Never far. Never far. Never far.
In my mind. Now who decides? Yeah, who decides? It ain't me. Who decides? Yeah, who decides? It ain't me.
In the studio, we have JP Mortier. Welcome.
Hey, hi there.
Good to have you in here.
Hey, thank you.
Little dicey going there at the beginning. I hear you had some traffic.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had to go through Toronto. So from 7 to, about 3 and almost 3.5 hours.
Right. I'm glad I don't have to do that. I took local transit in. I got to sit in the train and just drink coffee and chat with people. So,
Oh, yeah. Good.
yeah.
Good for
Where do
you.
you come from?
Okay. Well, I live in Montreal. I grew up there, but I was actually born in France.
Oh,
My dad is French. My mother is French of Italian origin. And we came to Canada when I was 2 years old and grew up in Montreal. Before that, actually, my first 2 years, I spent them in Tunisia. And that's it. So grew up
world
in Montreal.
traveler.
Yeah, right off the bat. Yeah.
That's excellent.
I did a lot of traveling later on too. But
Yeah, where have you been?
about 40, 50 countries. I did the teaching English in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Among other things. So I've been that area, China twice, Russia, Thailand, Australia, South America, South Africa, so on.
Wow.
All over Europe.
And were you playing when you were out there?
Yeah, actually, well, I would say Japan was kind of like the turning point to my playing because I started busking in Tokyo. And at the time, I was kind of getting the lyrics and the music started to gel together at that time, basically.
Okay. And so you're in the music business fairly recently.
No, I've
No?
really, I would say it's about 20 years now. I started as a sound engineer. I did a course for recording engineer at what's now called Recording Arts Canada. And they had in north of Montreal, in Saint-Sauveur, actually. Saint-Anne-des-Lacs, to be more precise. So I did the course there, and I got some jobs almost right away doing voiceovers and adding, sound effects and cleaning up audio tracks, stuff like that.
Right.
And that's when I started doing my demos for the first album, which came out 2004.
So 2004 is
The first
reasonably recent.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
2004,
Reasonably
15 years,
recent.
yeah. So it's, I figured that, somebody gets their start in the music business, but pretty much, out of high school, out of university, and, builds a career from there. But
I'm a late bloomer kind of guy, so
yeah.
that's might as well take the time to do it right, I suppose.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I mean, you've had some success. You've got 5 albums?
6 actually.
6.
So Nation of Iron is number 6.
Oh, wow.
Success is very it's very relative, right? So I think I've actually built up with every album. The production, I think, is the strong suit is the production side, but what's difficult is after the promotion, and then obviously getting the attention, getting the space on social media, on the internet, on traditional media as well.
That's the business of the music business.
That's the difficult part.
So did you have an in as a recording engineer? You knew all the right people.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think between me and my co-producer, my co-producer is Bill Shavlowski, who's worked with a lot of people. So he's a veteran, and he knows what he's doing. This guy, he worked with going back to the 70s. He worked with a lot of bands from Quebec, and he worked with Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. Did all the albums with Corbeau, Margeau. He did April Wine. And then later on, he worked with Robbie Robertson. He worked with Billy Idol. Wow, so he's got a long resume.
So was there the danger of you being pegged as a recording engineer rather than a musician?
I don't think so. Any recognition is fine for me. Whether people think I'm a good artist or engineer, the idea is that's not really the point.
It didn't obstruct your entry into the music playing business?
Not at all.
No. So you've been on tour. You've just come back from a tour.
I'm actually finishing this leg of the tour tomorrow in Toronto.
Yeah.
I went out west first. I do get some airplay from community and university radios out west. So I went there first. And so I just came back from there. It was pretty tiring, actually. So because it was all done within 5 weeks. I had like about 20 shows.
Yeah.
And about a dozen in BC. And kind of just got back a few days ago. I had to go back to Montreal for some business, and before doing the Toronto show. But I will have other shows in the new year. I hope to come to do more like this area, Southern Ontario, for sure.
Come to Waterloo, please.
Absolutely. And also, I haven't played Ottawa yet, actually, and Maritimes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the plans in 2020.
That's excellent. And so this is not your first tour either. You've had a few.
No, this is I've toured with. I haven't toured after the first album. I toured after every album after that. So this is actually my 5th Canadian tour.
Good.
I play. I don't play big places. I play cafes, pubs, little music venues, clubs, and
intimate settings.
Intimate settings, yeah. Because I have a band, and my band, I basically. Well, I'm a solo guy, but I hire my musicians.
Right.
So if I go to Western Canada, it would just be, I wouldn't make enough money to justify them. And also, like my bassist, he's pretty much in demand. So he's got like 10 other projects going on at the same time.
So who's in your band?
So on drums, I've got Daniel Grégoire. He was in a metal band in the 80s called Deaf Dealer. And he's done all sorts of stuff. He's got a lot of tribute bands, like an Elvis tribute band. So he's got a quite varied range of musical styles.
Okay.
The bassist is Sylvain Auclair, and he's a wonderful musician. He's a great guy, and he's fun to work with, and he's as talented as he's a nice person. He also plays Chapman stick. He only plays.
I saw that on the liner notes.
He actually played on this album. He only plays on one song on his stick. But on my previous albums, on the second, third album especially, it's all stick.
Really?
Instead of bass. Yeah. So I kind of like that. So, but he's reverted more to bass actually because of his other projects as well.
Right.
And so
this is electric bass.
It's electric bass, yeah. So he's got a band called Carcius, which is a prog prog band,
Okay.
and another one called Heaven's Cry, which is a bit more metal. And they have a following in Japan and other places
Yeah.
too. And so I got to fight for his attention.
On the campus community circuit too?
I have no idea where he
Oh, okay.
promotes himself,
Okay,
though.
'cause Can't say I've seen anything by him come through on our office
Oh.
line. We've got office at radiowaterloo.ca,
Okay.
which is our email address for music submissions. So if any other musicians are out there
I will
want to submit
definitely
music,
pass the word along
Yeah.
to Sylvain. So those are two guys they've been on my last 5 albums.
Okay.
So they've been pretty regular. Also on the album, I have a few guests. So I have Stéphane Pelletier on acoustic guitar
Mhm.
on 4 songs, and he does electric on another one. And he used to be my guitar teacher back a long time ago.
what does he think of all this?
Oh, it's great. I think he's happy that he has at least one student doing something. But he's a fantastic guitarist, and I've been trying to get on his case. You got to put an album out. You got to record some of your stuff because it's amazing. And he's got technique. His style is more Latin jazz, a bit like Paco de Lucia
Okay.
or Al Di Meola, that kind of stuff. And he's got the technique to match,
Okay.
which is wonderful.
So a good teacher.
Yeah, on top of that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm hoping that sometime soon there'll be something from him.
Nation of Iron has a nice, rich sound to it. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good.
Who else do we have? Well, we've got also Sienna Dallin. She's a jazz vocalist. She's originally from Vancouver. She was in Montreal. She lived in Toronto for a little while, and now she's back in north of Montreal. And she's a fantastic jazz singer and pianist, and she does back vocals on 3 songs. And I also have Beth McKenna on saxophone on 4 songs.
Oh,
And she's one of the up and coming jazz musicians in this country.
excellent. Got a large jazz following here in Waterloo, so
Ah,
send her
great.
our way.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
She teaches at McGill too, or she's involved with
Okay.
a lot of stuff at McGill University.
Okay. So good lineup, good band, good tour. Successful?
Yeah.
How do you measure success?
There's a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's more like depending on the crowd. Like if I play a pub, for example, I played in Regina. There was a very good turnout, and that was a very good show because the people got into it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you play resto bars kind of stuff, and people don't necessarily listen to you that
Your
much.
background.
So even though sometimes those gigs pay more, at the same time they're not as fulfilling in a
You're
way.
not satisfying because nobody's really there for the music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've also played a couple of really, really fun venues on this tour. One in Creston, BC, called The Venue.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Rick Brown who actually started this, and it's very, very nice. It used to be a small little church, and he redid all the interior, built it up himself. And he's still building it. The acoustics are very nice, and instead of having seats, it's just like sofas, so it's got a very cozy interior kind of thing.
Okay.
And it's a small town too, so it's like it's a small town, but people like music, and I thought that was a great venue. That was the best venue I played on this tour.
I realized that my father-in-law used to play country music.
Oh, yeah.
He's passed on now, but he traveled from small town to small town, playing in restaurants, bars. Worked his day job and then traveled hundreds of kilometers in the evening to go out to play someplace. And
great.
That was what he wanted to do.
The
day job was just to be able to buy the gas to go to the venues and play music.
Yeah. And some cafes, and it's been kind of there's a big variety of venues that I end up playing.
Yeah, and that's with the usually by yourself.
Well, when I'm far away, it's by myself. So it's solo acoustic, just acoustic guitar, voice, and with a band, it's usually in and around Montreal. We've performed in Ottawa. Ottawa's the farthest. I'm sure that at one point I'll get them to play in Toronto at one point. That'd be
the whole band.
nice.
That'd be good. Yeah.
That'd be good. Yeah.
So you're planning another tour in the near future?
Yeah. So I'm gonna continue promoting this album. So in the new year, I'm looking into, Quebec, Southern Ontario, and Maritimes, basically.
What was the catcher for the shows? What was the song that you performed there that got the best attention?
Wow, it's funny because I get people like different songs, and this is a double album too, so
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
24 of them.
Got lots of music. On
I've actually played each song at least once,
there. Mhm.
and it's hard to say which one people are. So some people, oh, I really like American. Some people say
Yeah.
I like Sons of Steel or Who Decides or
Okay.
World of Steel. So it's like it's. I find sometimes weird the feedback from some people too.
If you had to play one song to
Yeah.
encapsulate the album, what would you play?
Well, I would play World of Steel. I think this is a song that, well, it was good from the get-go, but it became something else during the recording stage.
Okay.
And on this song, I have everybody pitching in. So I have all the people I've mentioned,
Yeah, yeah.
and Beth does an excellent saxophone solo in the middle of it, and I think it's got something that I don't know, like it's beyond description. I think so. I would go
Okay.
for that one.
Can you play that for us?
Let's play that one.
Let's go do that.
So you'll have to imagine the saxophone solo, but I
Well,
got
We can do a little bit of comparative musicology and
so it's World of Steel, not Sons of Steel.
World of Steel.
Because that's something that obsessed my drummer quite a bit. Why did you have to like name similar titles like that? And
Go for it.
My world, my world, my world is a world of steel, steel. My world, my world, my world is a world of orders. These laws, these rules, all of this justice, justice. Authority sends you to the shelters and out to the hospice. Throw in the towel right into the ring. I'm lucky, I'm lucky, I'm lucky. I'm the right gender. Oh, I'm lucky, lucky, I'm lucky. I'm the right color. I don't want it now. This world's just too heavy. Ooh, ties have broken down. Too much cost being levied. Why can't this be the home of the brave? Equality and security is not what it ought to be. If 2 out of 3 vote for a fool, is this democracy? Why can't this be the land of the free? My brother can be free. My sister can be free. My children can be free. Then I am not free. Just one man isn't free. One woman's not free. Just one child isn't free. Then we are not free. We are not free. We are not free. We are not free. We are not free.
That's JP Mortier, World of Steel, live in the studio, CKMS FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo. Thanks, JP.
Thank you.
That hits all the social justice issues that,
In one tune.
yeah.
Actually, this is, I think that what I wanted to say in this song is I'm a white male and I suppose that I guess I'm on the top of the food chain in one way, but I don't, it's not good, I mean, everybody has rights. Everybody has a right to prosper and lead a good life, no matter what color of skin, your gender, your political allegiances, your orientation. I mean, all of this. So this song just became kind of like, okay, we don't need all of this, but I think it's optimistic too, in the sense that I think that I've lived long enough to see that there's actually been a progression, because we were not aware of a lot of stuff years ago. I remember as a kid, and I didn't know anything about, schools where First Nations were separated from their family, that kind of stuff.
Schools.
I mean, that was not talked about. That really came into the forefront in the past 15, 20 years or so.
Yeah.
People just did not know about stuff like that. But now we're aware of this. We're aware of that people have rights. We're aware that is, we can do better.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, we have come a long way. There's still a long way to go, but so it's kind of like a middle of the road kind of song.
This is coming up from the people, the citizens.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's reached the levels of politicians and government yet.
Well, I think there's an opening for sure. I think that the fact we have somebody like Mr. Singh as leader of the NDP, and
Right.
I think he's somebody from a minority who's actually a leader.
Yes.
We have, whether you like Justin Trudeau or not, he has actually brought as many women into this cabinet.
Yes.
And so there are some things. It's nowhere near perfect. It's nowhere near it should be, but there are little baby steps along the way, and they've appeared. So who knows? Maybe 20 years from now, it will finally reach that upper echelon of.
Seems to me that there's a lot of appearance, a lot of optics that are being catered to.
Yeah,
there's
for sure.
There's very little substance in,
For sure,
in the policies.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And so that's why there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it comes from people like you, delivering the message, in your case through music.
Well, so one of the roles of the artist is to bring this kind of stuff to the forefront. And
I've heard it said that the sign of good art is if it's controversial. If people talk about it, then you've
there you go.
been a successful
Absolutely.
artist. The whole album is takes you back to the days of protest songs.
I wanted a lot of these songs are not. There's a lot of old songs on this album too. It's songs I've written like 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
And
It's all fresh to me.
yeah, it's all fresh to everybody else, but to me. But the way I work actually is that I'm a prolific writer, and I started writing around 1986. So I have
Long
binders.
before you were performing publicly.
Long before I even had a chance to record, right? So I've got like binders full of songs.
Yes.
And
Seems to be a common thing with musicians.
and when I first did the first album, I kind of divided songs into different themes a bit because I didn't want to go schizo on different albums, right?
Right.
So my first album were all songs that I wrote when I was in Japan or about that period of time. The second album was more traveling songs, and the fourth album was soundtrack to a musical theater production. So that was written with Alain Mercica, a playwright from Montreal. The previous album was all love songs and kind of, it's called Songs of Love and Despair.
That would be this one
That
here.
would be that one there, yeah,
Just stick that on,
With a
on
big-
the camera.
with a big heart on it.
Yeah.
And
Songs of Love and Despair.
so all inspirations from previous adventures and misadventures, or not just by me, but also
Yeah.
people around. And this one is the social political one, and I had a lot of stuff
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah. It struck home with me. I like it. It's
Thank you.
has the imagery of steel and iron
I think it kind of,
in the song titles at any rate.
well, you know, we live in a harsh reality too. So I think the steel, iron, you know, and I'm trying to, there's some hard topics that I'm addressing. So
Yeah.
I figured that kind of had the imagery necessary.
Right. So the title of the album is Nation of Iron.
Nation of Iron, yeah.
Can you play that?
Okay.
JP's tuning up with a capo. And
Well, that one is same fret as World of Steel. So a
okay.
little bit about that song. What can I say about it? Well, it's kind of a call to arms, I suppose, in some ways. Here we go.
Salute the flag for you. Stand by your nation. Mr. Boots, salute the rag to you. Stand by your nation. Dictatorship will censor you, so no one can hear you. Democracy will let you down, but no one listens to you. Stand by your nation. Stand by your nation. What's your union? What's your family? What's your affiliation? What's your union? Who's your company? Show identification. Whose laws you must obey? True propaganda, blind you with patriotic pride, fulfill their agendas. Stand by your nation. Stand by your nation. Walter sent to war, a victim of conscription. Bent you with the afterlife, now bent you to religion. Remember you are who you vote, every poison has its antidote. No such thing as revolution, it's all been evolution. Stand by your nation. Stand by your nation. Nation nation of iron and a world of steel. Stand by your nation. Time to storm the Bastille. Stand by your nation. Stand by your nation.
Nation of Iron by JP Mortier, live on air in studio, CKMS FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo. This is CKMS Community Connections. I'm Bob Jonkman. In the studio, we have JP Mortier from Montreal doing a wonderful job of a live concert. That was an exhausting tune.
It is actually, especially after driving all this time. It's just like, okay, got to warm up the voice a bit on this one too.
That's about as different from World of Steel as you can possibly get.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. I like different dynamism. Excuse me, bit of a tongue twister there. I like different dynamics in songs and on albums too, which is why also on my albums, every album of mine has at least a few instrumentals on it, because I find that it's a little bit like a kind of an interlude in between some songs, especially when you're such
if you're paying attention to
topics.
the lyrics, it is heavy. It's,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that especially a double album, I'm not sure if people want to hear my voice for like 2 hours. So I figure, let's and I enjoy instrumental music quite a bit.
Yeah. So it gives a bit of a punctuated relief for the rest of it. Yeah. Tell me about double albums.
Double albums. Yeah. Why this is a double album?
Why is this a double album? You've got a wonderful blog post on your website, jpmortier.com.
Yes, that's right.
About.
That's right. Thanks for reading it.
Yeah.
I always was fascinated by. Well, I grew up listening to Zeppelin, the Beatles, and then Pink Floyd, and so on, and they all came out with double albums at one point in their career, and I and those are wonderful double albums, right? And along the way, I figure, you know what, this could be a really good double album. I have plenty of tracks there, and it's a very broad subject. I talk about society, different aspects, technology, discrimination, and there's so many things that I got the songs, and I, more importantly, I have enough quality songs. I didn't want to do a double album for the sake of doing a double album.
No.
So they had to be like the second to last song has to be as good as the first song, or otherwise there's no point recording it. So I said, okay, let's go ahead with it. And I did have my doubts too at one point was, are people going to be interested in listening to all of this stuff, or is it even, in 2019, is it even feasible to actually do that? Because that's pretty much against the grain. I think we're going back to more people just downloading a song or two or something like that, rather than whole album stuff. So, but as the project came along, as we worked on it, and we worked pretty much 3 years on the album, and as it came on, I say, no, this is a double album. We even thought about splitting it into 2 albums, right?
Two separate.
Yeah, a bit
releases,
like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, or kind of something like that. But no, it's gonna have, people are gonna remember that. Yeah, it's a double album. There's not too many of those. I think it will stand out.
No, really, it's just a constraint on the medium, right? It's you've got 56 minutes of music you can squeeze onto a CD, something in that neighborhood there.
Well, I think it's more. I was thinking it's more like 74, 76.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think you're right. I think it was. I think the size of the CD was based on some Beethoven composition that they had to get onto the one side.
Yeah. There's also. I even wasn't sure even to put it out on CD. Or what should I put it out on? What format? As it turns out, and from my tour just now, people still buy the CDs. So, because I made also download cards, and I've still sold a lot more CDs than the downloads.
So I first heard your music when you sent me a link to a digital copy of it. So I downloaded that.
Yeah, okay.
On our digital music library. Played it for one of the shows. It's much more convenient for me to have digital music than to actually deal with a
I
CD.
could
And
totally
yet,
understand.
here in the studio, we have two of them. One you sent to me, one you sent to the studio. So we've got two copies of it, which means that we have a copy to give away. So
Great.
yeah, we'll be handing that out to somebody.
Super.
Yeah. But if you're putting your music on, say, a thumb drive,
I
big thumb drive, you've
thought seriously about that one
Yeah.
because I have a buddy of mine who's a professional busker, where he finds it a lot more convenient to sell just the drives, right?
Yeah.
Because CDs break, and especially the guy's busking.
Yeah.
So he's like traveling around quite a bit. So I thought he likes better to sell the drives. But he told me it was still 50-50. People still wanted the CDs.
So the biggest problem that CDs have brought to me is that the liner notes are
So small.
so small.
Yeah.
You either have to have a
Yeah.
booklet inside the case. You try.
I would love that. Maybe one day, if I get popular enough to re-release the stuff on vinyl, that'd be super. That it would have, I would have to get a hit or something like that for me to do it.
What about the acoustic quality then? Now, the vinyl sounds nice and warm because of distortions and
absolutely.
and inadequacies in being able to transmit a full spectrum of sound.
Absolutely. So I don't know. I have like at home, I have like 1,000 vinyls.
Oh,
And I
man.
still buy vinyls
Really?
occasionally.
It's all come back, hasn't it?
It
You have a show on here.
for me, it actually never really left because even at when it was the least popular, like late 90s to early 2000s, I hooked up with some DJs that were doing a lot of, raves and stuff like that. So for me, it never really left. But I
Okay.
know that for the public out there, everybody thought the vinyl had gone the way of the dodo. But
in cassettes, we've got
cassettes are coming back.
a production company right here in Waterloo. One of our online DJs, Tuesday evenings, Francis Clare on the air, runs the 3-9's distribution network, which is all cassettes. So
Who knows?
he plays cassettes.
20 years we'll be listening to Wax Cylinders.
I don't think those will have the durability of even vinyl. As a recording engineer, how do you find the quality of a CD compared to vinyl, compared to something that you might distribute digitally?
Oh, I had that test with my bassist Sylvain too, because we did the taste test. We took Miles Davis, Kind of Blue.
Oh yeah.
So we had a recent vinyl too, because he had bought a vinyl, a new one, and we compared it to a CD, also of a recent master also.
Mm-hmm.
And our conclusion was that one was not necessarily better than the other, but they both sounded different.
So would you write music tuned to the medium?
I think not. I think I'm more interested in writing a good song, no matter what it's on. And it's a good song. Also, you got to be able to play it live.
Yes,
you also got to be able to. It's got to sound good in your car. Got to sound good in your headphones.
It's always going to sound different when you're playing it live.
It's going to sound different. People have different sound systems, and there's no point in even worrying about it too much.
What would be a pronounced difference between something you're playing live and something that's on the album? What would be the most significant?
I just played Nation of Iron, which I think sounds very different than on the album.
Okay.
But I kind of wrote it basically when I do acoustic versions, they kind of go back to their primitive form when I first wrote it, because I pretty much write everything on the acoustic guitar. Once in a while, I'll like Sons of Steel, the first album. I actually wrote on a bass, so it's actually a bass. A bass line.
So that explains how it opens.
Yeah, exactly. And then Sylvain actually plays it. But when I first wrote it, I was fooling around with I have a Rickenbacker 4001 bass, so I was fooling around with that, and that tune kind of popped up that way. Yeah. But the majority of my songs come from the acoustic guitar. So a lot of the songs, even though they might have all sorts of arrangements and all sorts of added stuff on it, I can still play them with just a guitar and vocal.
Right, because that's how they started.
That's how they started. Right. They just revert to that, basically.
Right.
So, but one thing that we've discussed with my co-producer is to kind of, now that I have 6 albums, maybe at one point kind of revisit some of the old songs and actually record them acoustically.
Okay.
So that's one of the possibilities. We have a few.
Mortier unplugged.
And it would kind of be a good representation when I go on tour far away where I
Right.
can't bring the band.
Right.
So I can, so somebody also had suggested me that years ago to do that. And I haven't done it yet, but that's one of the possibilities.
Is there a surprise when you come to a venue, people show up and there's just you with an acoustic guitar when they've been listening to the
So far,
full
nobody has
sound?
complained about it. But I do explain, when I address the crowd at one point, I do mention I have albums for sale and they're full band arrangements. So I do mention that.
Okay.
And I do mention it when I send it to the radio stations as well, is that, let's say, for example, in Winnipeg's been pretty good for me because the University of Manitoba, I've always gotten interviews there and all that. And but by now they know me, so
Good.
I don't need to warn them that I'm just coming with just the acoustic
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But the ones that don't know me, I always mention it in the one sheet.
When I
bios.
invited you here, I told you about, we've got enough electrical outlets for a couple of instrument amps, but probably not enough room for a drum kit in the studio. And here you are by yourself, and there's not a problem at all.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah. So let's do that comparison we talked about.
Okay.
We'll play a track off the album, and then you play that track acoustically, or maybe the other way around. How would you like to do it? And what would you choose?
Well, it's your show. It's your call.
Okay. Play me something that
Would be very different.
would be very different and may change the perception of the meaning, how the meaning might change, where the instrumentation is important to carrying the message.
All right. Okay. Well, we could go for Sons of Steel, I suppose.
Okay.
And so, like I told you, I wrote this one on the bass. So
Yeah.
that makes it very even tougher on just the
Okay.
acoustic guitar.
Play it on acoustic,
Right.
and then we'll listen to the opening of it on the CD.
The entire song or just
Play the entire
verse?
song
All
here.
right.
Yeah.
Sons of steel, lie to me, lie to you. Statistics are false or untrue. Follow you, follow me, to be slaves to technology. You are what you know, what you read. This data's all that you need. Sons of Steel provide you content. What's a purpose? You know their intent. Under stress, your status is one big distress, and talk to the world on your laptops and phones. Conversation that keeps you alone. Sons of steel, like to me, like to you. Statistics are false or untrue. Follow you, follow me, to be slaves to technology. You are what you know, what you read. This data is all that you need. Sons of steel provide you content. Do you really know of their intent? Under stress, your status is one big distress. And all to the world on your laptops and phones, conversation that keeps you alone.
Sons of Steel by J.P. Mortier. The acoustic version in studio and the recording from the album Nation of Iron. Welcome again, JP.
Thank you.
We're almost done here. So you have 1 day left. You have one day of touring left.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Toronto tomorrow at Transact Club. It's 292 Brunswick Avenue. If there's people in Toronto listen to this,
Yeah.
it's at 7:30, and there's a suggested donation, $5. If you want to give more, by all means. The price of gas is.
And you're selling your CDs?
And I'm selling my CDs, also downloadable cards, and I also had T-shirts for sale, but only got a couple left actually.
Okay.
And there's a couple that I unfortunately left behind in in Creston, BC, that I asked the guy to mail them back to me because
If you want the swag, you've got to go see JP tonight or tomorrow night, Tuesday
Tomorrow
night,
night, yeah.
at Transact Club.
Yeah.
We broadcast on the internet, so radiowaterloo.ca/listen. It's entirely possible you'll pick up a few fans on the way, and
it'd be great.
yeah, it'd be wonderful. Talking about distributing your music, and you said you weren't too concerned about people making a copy and sending it to their friends and sharing.
Well, people listen without even downloading, right? I mean, you got access to it with your phone or laptop, whatever. You got access to the history of music, basically. If you want to listen to Blind Lemon Jefferson or Peter Tosh or Rachmaninoff, they're all there. If you want to listen to Tibetan folk music, it's there. There's no. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over people listening for free because that's the way it is.
That's
I'm not going to spit against the wind.
Is playing music a full-time gig for you?
It's a full-time gig, but I still need a day job to pay the bills. So that's the unfortunate.
Yeah, that's for some reason music isn't valued. And yet when you ask people, it's a most prominent part of their lives.
It is, yeah. I think there probably is some kind of business model that might end up working eventually. Like,
I think the distribution of music for money is probably not it. Distribute the music.
Yeah, that's
there's zero cost for distribution nowadays through the internet.
Yeah,
I mean, you're still pressing CDs and all.
Yeah.
But that's not where I think the money is. I think maybe the tour, the swag.
Yeah, there's that. The only thing about the tour now is that everybody's trying to tour, and there's not as many venues. And I've noticed that you actually get less money now because I think venues can pick whoever they want, and they also, when you're doing original material, you're also behind the 8 ball because a lot of places prefer to cover bands. And
you do any covers?
I once in a while, but only if the mood strikes me.
Okay.
Let's just say.
Okay.
But I'm a songwriter. Right? That's really what I am, and I put my songs forward. So I don't. Right. I did play one cover tune at the show in Sudbury.
Ah.
So, but it was really
doesn't happen much.
That was very much more accidental.
So you've got some instrumental music?
Yes, I do.
Something you can take us out with?
Sure. So
I'll talk over this. So, this is not going to be...
Okay. All right. So I'll play 147, which is also on.
All right. You listen to... Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I was just going to say playing the right notes would probably help.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's 147.
You've been listening to JP Mortier, live on air in studio at CKMS FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo. This is CKMS Community Connections. My name is Bob Jonkman. CKMS Community Connections is sponsored by Radio Waterloo. And the executive producer is Yenny Strong. You can hear Yenny on the second half of CKMS Community Connections on Friday at 2 p.m. Listen to JP Mortier playing 147 at the top of the hour.